Hello, sports fans. This is your favorite podcast, Athletics Chat. It's Athletics Chat 89. The charming gentleman in the middle with the earphones is none other than Stuart Weir. He is in Oxford, England. And what is Oxford, dear friends? The intellectual capital of the world. I just watched a talk from the Oxford Union this weekend. And then my name is Larry Eater. I'm today in San Jose, California. In 3 days, I'll be back in Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin. A week ago, I was in Spokane, Washington, excuse me, for the USATF Indoors. And we have a plethora of topics today. Stuart, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yes.
Good. Well,
I mean, it's all very upsetting what Putin is doing to Ukraine, and I've got friends in Ukraine and all that, but we just get on.
It's pretty sad. I think it's closest that this generation has seen to a this current generation has not experienced the Cold War. And I think it's something that they're going to be experiencing with a renewed vigor as long as Mr. Putin is the absolute ruler of the Russian Republic or the Russian Federation, whatever you want to call it. Our hearts go out to the people in the Ukraine, our thoughts and prayers with them. And if you can support people in the Ukraine in any way, please do it. The Red Cross is a good way too. There's several things on PayPal, and check out Twitter. But while this unprovoked murderous act is going on, our sport gives us some moments of something to see that human beings can go to an even higher level. And speaking of higher levels, our friend Mondo Duplantis today in Belgrade at a invitational in order to practice at the facility that will host the World Indoor Championships went 6:19, breaking his own world record of 6:18, and pretty tremendous. An incredible height. Over the weekend, we were raving about Chris Nielsen, the American, moving the American record to 6:05. And people, dare we say, were saying, well, can Chris Nielsen challenge Mondo Duplantis? I think that it'll be interesting. I think Mondo is at a very rarefied place, and that does not take away from where Chris is. But Mondo Duplantis is the world record holder, and that's pretty exciting, and looking forward to see what he can do in Belgrade. Here's the big question, Stuart, can he go higher?
Well, first of all, I was going to say that there are shades of Sergei Bubka, because he has jumped 6:19, beating his own world record of 6:18, which in turn beat his own world record of 6:17.
That is true, and
I mean, I'm sure he can go higher. I heard a quote from him that he thinks he's tried 6:19 50 times before he got it. So I imagine he'll be going for 6:20 now at any meets he's doing well in. But if it takes him another 50 attempts, that could be another year, I suppose, easily.
Well, it goes back to the story we've told about Sergei Bubka. Back in 2011, I had dinner with Sergei, and one of his good friends asked him to tell me why he broke world records in each centimeter. And he said that's because his sponsor, Nike, gave him $25,000 a centimeter for a world record. And being the budding young capitalist that he was, he did that. And, I believe he broke the world record indoor and out a combined 34 to 35 times. They go back and forth on a couple of them, but can Mondo do that? I think Hell, I think Mondo's got another, 15, 16 years if he wants to.
It reminds me of something that Ryan Crosser said to me. He said that if you hold the world record, all you need to do to break it is a PR. You don't need to worry about anyone else.
Yeah.
All you need to PR.
That's
and
pretty
Mondo's
neat.
been in that position.
Yes.
Well, I mean, Ryan, I think it just does find these phrases. He's a good way of expressing himself.
Yes, he does. Mondo, I think I've seen Mondo do some good interviews. He is obviously a tremendous physical talent. He's got a great support system with his mother and father and sister who's a vaulter and brother who's a former baseball player. I think he has two brothers. And obviously the whole country of Sweden who worships him. I mean, you've got him and Daniel Stahl, among others in Sweden that are pretty tremendous. And
doesn't he also have a sister who does a bit of vaulting?
Yes. She's a teen. I think she's like 19 or 20, and she.
I heard him say at the Birmingham. He was asked at the Birmingham presser whether he gave her advice, and he said he was happy to, but sometimes younger sisters don't really want advice.
Yes. I thought that was a very good comment, and I just thought that was pretty amazing. And I watched them in 2017 when he was really just starting, trying to decide American college, what he was going to do. He was at the Prefontaine meet, and I watched Renaud Lavillenie and Sam Kendricks spend some time with him, and they knew that he was a tremendous talent, yet they were, and that he would, take medals away from him, yet they were very, very supportive of him. And I thought that was very cool. It must be amazing to know that you're in the presence of somebody who's going to surpass what you've done. And how do you, put that together? How do you kind of bring your ego back a little bit, and that's one of the curious things you see with the pole vault community. I mean, Renaud Lavillenie just did the All-Star Perche in Rouen on Saturday night, and Chris Nielsen went 6:05, and let's see who else was it. Ernest. Oh gosh, I'm going to mess up his last name. The Philippine pole vaulter, Ernest Priano. He went 5:91, and then Tiago Braz, the 2016 Olympic champion, went 5:91. I mean, it was a fantastic event. And the week before, Chris Nielsen had been in Spokane, Washington, where he won the U.S. pole vault title with 5 men over 5:85, the first time that had ever been done in one event. So I think that we're seeing these great strides in the pole vault. The level of competition is coming up, and the truth was at the 6:05 at the event with Nielsen, both Braz and Ernest were in the event and jumped at 6:01. Now both of them missed. And at that, when Chris cleared that on his first attempt, he was in the competition by himself, which is what Mondo finds himself, at a certain point. Mondo gets to 5:96 or 6:01, and the party's over for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, it reminds me of Blanka Blasic, who from memory jumped 2 meters 166 times. 166. I wonder what the number will be for Mondo when he hangs up his pole. How many times will he have cleared 6 meters?
Yeah, that's
it could
pretty.
It could be a number approaching Blanka.
Yes. No, I think that You look at athletes like Mondo, you look at athletes like Ryan Krauser, you look at athletes like Elaine Thompson, and they make the extraordinary look ordinary. And that's part of their gift. They're so talented. You don't see that Mondo has been vaulting since what, he was 8 years old, at least. That Ryan, has been throwing now for 12 to 14 years. That Elaine has been running now for more than half of her adult life. Those are extraordinary things, and we can add in our friend Eliud Kipchoge, who yesterday won the 14th marathon and 16 starts in marathons. He won Tokyo, and which was interesting. And Stuart, you'll find this fun. The Japanese are referring to the Tokyo Marathon this year is the 2021 Tokyo Marathon because they canceled the 2022, and we wouldn't want to call it the 2022. So I put 2022, really 2021. Mondo or Elliot is just such a tremendous athlete. And again, when he came on the scene when he was 18, and he was in the final 200 meters of the World Championship 5,000 with Hikam El Garouge and Kenenisa Bekele, no one thought that Kipchoge could win, but he did. And he spent the next decade on the track, and then he moved quite painfully into the marathon. His first marathon, I believe he was second, and then he won 12, and then he finished, I think, sixth when he had an off day, and then he came back and won the last two, the Olympics and in Tokyo. So he has said out loud that he would like to win all 6 of the World Marathon Majors, which is the Abbott's World Marathon Majors, sponsored by the Abbott's Medical Company. So he's got New York and Boston. And I think he's got a very good shot at doing it. If anybody does, he does. But it's just fun to think about that athletic genius. We had Mondo Duplantis today. We had Eliud Kipchoge yesterday. We had Chris Nielsen on Saturday. Last week we got to see Ryan Krauser do the world lead at 22:51. His only real indoor competition this season, he had tried to compete at Millrose, and there was some a misfiring or a problem with the equipment, and he didn't get any marks. So kind of an interesting approach. The next thing I thought we could talk about happened last night over here in California. It's San Juan Capistrano High School. Jesse Williams and his partners, among them Craig Vanderhoff, have a group called Sound Running, and they've been putting on these bespoke track meets around the U.S. And this meet was specifically for the 25-lapper, 10,000 meters. There was a men's race and a women's race, and they put a 1,500 in between. In the women's race, Elise Cranny, Bowerman Track Club, formerly from Stanford, ran 30:14:66, the number 2 time on U.S. list ever. The women who followed her totally jumbled up the U.S. women's list, but in second was our friend Dominique Scott, who runs for South Africa, and she ran a lovely PB of 31 flat. I know that puts her up pretty high on the South African list, but it gave her a second. And for someone who is always so positive, it's really nice to see Dominique Scott do well.
Yeah, I once sat next to her in a bus in Rome. I just thought I'd drop that into the conversation.
Really? Did you enjoy the conversation?
I did. Because sometimes you sit with an athlete and they just say nothing, but she's haven't. It may just be me that people don't talk to. Probably everyone talks to you, Larry.
Oh, yeah. Well, I talk to everybody. That's the problem. I've been jabbering since I, first had a breath. In the men's, well, then there was a 1500, and Jordy Beamish and Ollie Hare from On Athletics. It was pretty much their race, and Gordy ran 3:36:54 to win. So not a real fast time, but a good time early season. In the men's elite 10,000, Grant Fisher, Bowerman Track Club, formerly Stanford, Olympian at the 5 and the 10, recently broke the American indoor record for the 5,000 with a 12:53. He ran 26:33:84, breaking the 26:44 record of one Galen Rupp. Right behind him in 26:34:14 was Canadian Mo Ahmed, who goes online as Mo Speed. Mo's a Badger, a former University of Wisconsin athlete. Both Mo and Grant run for the Bowerman Track Club. And I believe 7 of the 10 top 10 were in the Bowerman Track Club in the 10,000. It was pretty tremendous events. But again, hats off to Jesse Williams and Craig Vanderhoff, not only for holding the meets, but the creative way they put money back into the athletes' pockets. They do a streaming video of the events. You pay $5.99, and I believe 80% of that money goes to the athletes. And they get anywhere from 5 to 20,000 people signing up, and I think it's a great idea. And it's they have good announcing, they keep it fun, and watch for some stories on RunBlogRun coming up about that event. But it was one of the first. I'm trying to remember. There were a couple Brits over here, and I'll have to pull those together and write about them as well. And let's see what else we have. Last week, we interviewed Mark Monroe. I've got to tell you, Stuart, I really like him. He's he's a class act. And I asked him, I told him, my comment was that some people, I understand, are disappointed that he's not running for the full-time or the full-time position because he's interim right now. And he noted that there's some family issues that he just, at this time, he's not gonna, he has to make priority with that, and you've got to respect that. I think that, but the way he talked about the challenges, which I thought was fantastic, but it was his whole challenge is that there's so many things to do, and he and Ian Beattie seem to have prioritized, I think, the right things. I remember last summer you telling me about one of their pressers where I think it was one of their original pressers, where they talked about, and it may have been in the fall, where they talked about how important BBC was. And boy, they went after it. Because there was a look last summer that BBC may not renew anything with British athletics.
No, I mean, I think that you expressed that very well, that, Joe Coates did a lot of things well, but they weren't, in most people's opinion, the right things. And I think that Mark and Ian have identified what the sport thinks is important. And, that I was very struck in the piece I wrote a few months back about how they talked about serving. The governing body was there to serve the sport, to serve the coaches, to serve the athletes. And I think that's something which I hadn't heard from previous management. And so there they were. And I mean, I think it's a great shame that Mark isn't throwing his hat in the ring. But yeah, I talked to him, and he lives quite a distance from Birmingham, and moving isn't really an option at the moment. And I think he's done the honourable thing by saying, I cannot do the job the way it needs to be done, so therefore I'm not going to apply, rather than taking it and then struggling to put in the time that the job needs. So I think he's an honourable man. Of course, he's still staying on as development director, which was his original job there. So he won't go away. I mean, one of the things that impressed me about him is that he puts himself about. I mean, like he had his lunch at the Grand Prix in Birmingham in the press room. You know, just rather than sort of going and hiding away in the VIP area or something, he actually just came so that he could chat to people. And I think that kind of thing, for me, is impressive.
No, it's very interesting. What I've noticed when I'm out working on stories and I reach out to a company, the majority of companies now highlight my email as an external email. Media is the enemy, from the fake news stuff to whatever. Public figures like Mark, who are comfortable enough in their own skin and also know that the biggest problem they have is a perception problem, do what he does. The press room at a British indoor meet or British outdoor meet is crazy busy. There's people bringing snacks and stuff in. There's always hot tea, of course. There's workstations. There's photographers running in and out. There are screens where you can see all the social media going up and down. And to put yourself in that place allows a writer like you or I, if we had a quick question, we could go to Mark and say, Mark, how do you deal with this? And Mark can handle it right then instead of becoming a problem. I wish more Federation people would do things like that. I just think that's highly commendable. And my impression, I believe I've done about 250 Zooms now, from Socially the Distance to Athletics Chat. You can read people pretty well. You get that as a journalist. I still think that I can give you 20 questions in writing and find more out about you that you don't want me to know than when I'm doing a Zoom interview. But what I found with Mark was that he was very relaxed. There were a couple things regarding current, I would use the term jurisprudence, that he really could not speak on, but he was very straightforward about it. He tried to give me as much information as possible. I asked him a little bit about, the Reina Ryder articles and things, and because I really don't know how to even cover that. And we talked about CJ Usha a little bit, and he had to be careful, but he has that combination of, he has that street intelligence so that he knows when to say something and when not to, which probably makes Ian Beattie very, very happy. And also I love press conferences in the UK. You and I get a chuckle out of them, but you know that sometimes there are some of our dear colleagues who get on rants or who have something agenda that they really think needs to be discussed. And we had a couple of guys like that in the US that used to infuriate me. Outside of a press room, they were just dear people. But in a press room, oh my gosh, I got to the point where I just had to just take a deep breath. At the end of the day, it's two humans talking and trying to communicate. And how do you accomplish that? And can you find common ground,
Something which always interests me is what is the relationship between a CEO and a chairman? Mark and Ian, of course, had worked together in that role in Scotland. They were obviously very comfortable with each other. that is something which potentially is going to be lost when a new chairman, probably from outside.
That's a wonderful point, Stuart, because I think one of the reasons why it works, as you said, is that Ian and Mark work really well together. It's most unfortunate that the one wonders what the board could do to take some of the things off the CEO's plate to perhaps offer it to Mr. Monroe. I just think he's a true talent, and maybe dividing the position up in certain things. But that's me not understanding the intricacies in the culture of British athletics, and just thinking that there's someone tremendous.
I mean, I think that the most negative scenario is to find themselves needing a new CEO. And the most negative scenario is, how to make the Joe Coates mistake again. I mean, I think that I have a lot more confidence in the process because of Ian being involved. And, the fact that Ian is so much a man of the sport, which none of the interim or short-term chairs since Ed Warner left in 2017, none of them really were from the sport. And to me, that comes across when you see Mark and Ian almost apologizing for not being at a track meet because they were at a cross-country race that day. That they are people who go to events and enjoy going to events.
Grading from A to F, with F being a failing grade, where do you put British athletics right now?
I would say that the academic year in Britain ends in June when you have your final exams. And I would say that British athletics is not at the point of the final exams where the grading can fairly be given. You could say that to find itself going into a year of 4 global championships with an interim CEO, an interim performance director, a head coach who doesn't have universal confidence of people around, is not a place you would choose to be in. It's hard to judge at the moment because the appointment of Ian Beattie, to succeed Nick Card, was bringing in somebody from the sport with a high level of competence to replace someone who was not from the sport. Similarly, bringing in Mark Monroe to replace Joe Coates was bringing in somebody from the sport to replace somebody who's not from the sport. To find themselves without a performance director is partly due to Joe Coates, frankly, appointing the wrong person. And again, you might even say that Joe Coates did that because the board of British athletics appointed Joe Coates the wrong person. So when they appoint their performance director and CEO, they've just desperately got to have the right person. The reason for not appointing performance director or technical director performance, as it's been called, is that they said that the best candidates were not available in the short term. And so obviously they have a short list, and people they would like to persuade, perhaps to come at the end of the summer. And so it's going to be a period where probably we won't see someone in post before September, October at the earliest. CEO we should do, but again, it's just vital to get. For me, the CEO, you've got to have somebody who has the competence to operate at that level, and someone who understands the sport. Joe Coates certainly had the competence to operate at that level, but the criticism of her and of Sarah Symington is that they never quite got track and field athletics. You know, a sport which has got gold medals being won in 6 seconds, to marathon running, to throwing, to cross country, to road races. Just the complete diversity compared to the two of them who previously worked in a sport which all takes place on an indoor court. You know, they'd previously been in netball, which is effectively a form of basketball. So when you have a sport which is very easy to describe and you know, all takes place in a smallish hall compared to our sport, which has the cross country, the road marathon, the indoor and outdoor, track and field. And when I say field, I mean throwing and jumping. So it's just that diversity that somehow simple plans that worked in a sport which just involves throwing a ball into a hoop don't necessarily answer the same all the questions in track and field athletics.
Now, it's been interesting for the last decade over in the US. I've watched and observed how many brands have brought in people into the running business with no experience in running and totally damaged their businesses. Now, some have been successful, but many have damaged their businesses, and they go back to going, yes, we need a business person with business skills, but someone who's ensconced in the culture. The observance that I've made with Mr. Beatty and Mr. Monroe is that you have people who have those skill sets of managing and running organizations, but also understand the dynamism of athletics. It's my frustration in the US. USATF is doing the best funding we've ever had. They're coming into some really good places. They say a lot of times the right things at the right time. They do make it difficult sometimes to cover the sport because we have to search out their press releases. They decided years ago that they were too big to send stuff to media, even though the number of track and field riders is diminishing. You know, I'm one of the old guys now. You know, I mean, we have Elliot Denman, who's 126, but you know, besides Elliot, I mean, he was a 1956 Olympian. The guys with experience are getting younger and younger, and the women, you know, coming in too, and we're now getting some journalists of color, which, quite frankly, we didn't have. We had a dearth of in this country. I'm not sure in Great Britain, but federations have their challenges no matter what. The U.S. Federation believes its main job is to get gold medals, and it does that. You know, averages what 30 gold medals, 25 to 30, which is fantastic. I think sometimes we take that for granted. Watching you guys get pilloried over 6 medals, you know, watching a country getting excited because they've won their first medal, or they've had their first athlete finish in the top 6. Big deal, you know. We're down to about 5 minutes, and I wanted to ask you something. How are you feeling about Belgrade?
I'm looking forward to Belgrade. I mean, I think it's not going to be the highest quality indoor world we've seen because so many people have, for very sensible reasons, opted out of the indoor this year. I mean, I spoke to a British athlete and said, why aren't you doing indoors? And the answer was, with 3 outdoor championships, I just don't think I want to be running as early as February. And so there's that. But then, of course, from a totally British point of perception. If it's not the strongest event, then there's got more chance for some of our people to win medals. I mean, I love indoors because everything is happening in front of you. It's not like the triple jump that you're trying to cover is 100 yards away from your seat on the far corner. I mean, I don't know how they do this. They always put the triple jump in the opposite corner, no matter where I'm sitting. So I mean, that's something I'm looking forward to. And we've got a number of young athletes who are really excited about getting to go to a championship. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I mean, I would like to be sure that the Russians aren't going to drop a bomb on us. But yeah, I'm pretty positive about it. And golly, it's a goal in 9 days' time.
Yeah, yeah. No, I've had all my things filled out, and some great airfares, some good hotel deals. My concern has just been with the gravity of what's going on in Europe. I was in Sopot in 2014 when they went into Crimea, and there was a lot of saber rattling, but this seems a little more difficult. I also understand World Athletics thinks we've got to have something for the world to look at besides carnage, and this is a pretty tremendous meet. How are the British newspapers covering it? How is British media looking at any comments on the World Indoor Champs to be moved or anything? Or
there's just no coverage in newspapers of that at all.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, I think that's really important.
Well, I mean, but I mean that there's so little coverage in British newspapers of the Elaine Thompson, Mondo, and so on in Birmingham, and my newspaper on the Saturday or the Sunday, Monday rather, had no coverage of the event at all.
Oh my God!
Only online.
Wow! Wow!
So I think that's the problem, and not that many. I mean, some people would say it clashed with the end of the Winter Olympics, but there weren't many athletics writers there. No, I mean, I think that the whole Ukraine thing is massively on every news bulletin and newspaper front page and first 10 pages and so on. So that's, but no, I mean, I've heard of no suggestion that it won't take place because so far, I mean, the Russian engagement is just with the eastern and southeastern part of Ukraine, which is a few countries away from Serbia.
What event? Do you have two events that you're looking forward to in Belgrade?
Well, I suppose a lot of people are talking about the men's 60 with Christian Coleman and Jacobs head to head. There's lots of things I'm looking forward to, but not knowing exactly who is going. Because the British team has been announced, but I haven't seen really any other teams. Elaine Thompson said she hadn't decided if she was going to the World Indoors. Now, if she's there running, it'd be great. But if she isn't there, it's a much more open race.
No, I think you're right. I think it's going to be, we're just going to have to wait the next 9 days and look forward to your coverage. And I will be staying awake from here and covering it from lovely Wisconsin. I won't be 9 hours difference, just about 7. So it's not too bad. But this is Larry Eder with RunBlogRun. This is Athletics Chat 89. It's Stuart Weir and Larry Eder speaking for 45 minutes on the topics of the world of athletics. Thank you for watching. Thanks to Mike Deering, our producer, our production manager, our special confidant, and just stay safe. in this crazy world. Well, hello, sports fans. This is Larry Eater with RunBlogRun. This is your favorite podcast, Athletics Chat, and Athletics Chat 89, the epilogue, our Larry's monologue. Today we had a plethora of topics. Start from the top, Mondo Duplantis, 619, new world record. Remember, he's the guy who went 617, 618, 619. It's fascinating, though, he hasn't jumped between 610 and 616 indoors. So it'll be very interesting to see what he does in Belgrade. But he is obviously in an incredible place. When I asked Stuart Weir how high he thought he could go, he kind of avoided answering it, but he said this. He reminded me that Blanka Vlasic, the incredible Balkan superstar in the high jump from Croatia, went over 2 meters 166 times in her career. Stuart ventured to guess that by the time Mondo's career is over, he may have a number quite similar, going over 6 meters. Wouldn't that be incredible? Going over 19 feet, 9.75 inches, 100 and plus times. I think Mondo could do it. You know, the guy's 20 years old now. He can jump till he's probably 40, probably 36, 37, and be absolutely incredible. And so he jumped in Belgrade earlier today, their time, and went to 619, new world record. Over the weekend at the meet that Renaud Lavillenie, the former world record holder, host in Rouen, France, the All-Star Perche, Chris Nielsen, the current American record holder, indoor record holder in the pole vault, and the current Olympic silver medalist in the pole vault, added 3 centimeters and went to 6.05 meters. Here's to me what was interesting. He started at 551 and cleared 551, 561, 571, 581, 586, 591, skipped 596, cleared 601 and 605. All 8 attempts were clearances, first jumps. It was a tremendous competition. There were 2 athletes at 591, and this is a week after Chris had gone 591 in Spokane, Washington at the U.S. Championships battling Casey and Lightfoot. And at that meet, 5 men went over 585 for the first time in one meet, which was pretty tremendous. The men's pole vault is just soaring, and it's quite entertaining, as is the women's pole vault. And in Belgrade, the men and women's pole vault will be very, very exciting. On the men's side, Mondo, Duplantis, Chris Nielsen, the Lavillenies, Tiago Braz. On the women's side, Angelika Sidorova, Katie Najat, Sandy Morris, among others. There's always surprises on both sides. That's what makes it a sport. But great pole vaulting over the weekend and today. On Sunday night, Sound Running's the 10K event happened. It was actually supposed to be on Saturday, but because of the winds, meet organizer Jesse Williams and Craig Vanderoff moved it to Sunday. San Juan Capistrano High School, San Juan Capistrano, California. There are about 75 fans there. I hope in the future there are more fans. A good group watched it by streaming. A tremendous meet. Women's 10K, men's 1500, men's 10K. There was also a championship level, U.S. championship level 10K for men and women. Both very fine events. The 1500 was won by Jordy Beamish, who beat Ali Har. It's like 336.54 to 336.77. It wasn't a really fast time, but it was an exciting race. And apparently there's an interesting haircut in the race too, so you'll have to check that out. But Elise Cranny, she of Stanford, who just competed in the Olympics, who recently broke the American indoor record for the 5,000 meters, just missed the outdoor record for the 10,000, running 30:14.66. She was less than, I believe, 2 seconds off the record by Molly Huddle, who broke that at the London World Championships in 2017. In second place in the women's 10 was Dominique Scott from South Africa, who races and trains with Team Bossard in the US. And she ran 31 flat, pretty stunning 10,000 time. And Dominique is one of our favorites. She's always there for an interview and very positive. And we just enjoy talking with her. And it's great to see athletes like that staying with the sport so long. She's a former University of Arkansas athlete. And 31 minutes gets her into the World Championships. So that's pretty awesome. The men's elite race was stunning. It came down to the last 20, 30 meters. Grant Fisher, 26:33.84, new American record, breaking iconic Galen Rupp's 26:44. Second place, Mo Speed, the one and only Mo Ahmed from Canada and from University of Wisconsin. Go Badgers, 26:34.14. Mo is one of the most fun interviews I've ever done. We interviewed him in Doha after his bronze medal. There was some F-bombs. It was hysterical. He's just a great guy. He's a lot of fun, and he emotes his love of the sport well. But that's Bowerman going 1-2. And Bowerman had, I believe, 7 in the top 10. Some fantastic running. A couple of national records, big PBs, and a shakeup on the U.S. list, and a lot of qualifiers. And that's what it's all about. Grant, as you recall, ran 12:53 indoors about 3 weeks ago for 5,000 meters. So pretty incredible meet. But Sound Running has been putting on these bespoke track meets now for almost 2 years. They really sharpened their teeth during the pandemic, the height of the pandemic. The quality of their meets is what has to be seen to be appreciated. Can they take it and bring a big audience in? I think TV-wise they can. I think they need to do meets for the athletes like they're doing and provide opportunities, as our friend Ben Blankenship said a couple weeks ago to RunBlogRun. Provide opportunities on this side of the pond so Americans have choices besides going to Europe. I love going to meets in Europe, but I also understand if it's a challenge for me to travel and hit around, what's it like for athletes trying to do that too? And so I think there needs to be opportunities on both sides of the pond, and Sound Running is doing that and doing a great job. And the Sound Running 10K meet was fantastic. Congratulations to Jesse Williams, Craig Vanderhoff, and the team. We'll have some more things with Craig and Jesse shortly. After the Sound Running event, we've talked about the pole vault. We've talked about Mondo. We've talked about Chris Nielsen. I asked Stuart a little bit about his feelings going to Belgrade. Last night, I pretty much decided that the cost but also the political climate has me very concerned. And this is the first indoor world championships I believe I've missed since 2003 or 2005, or 2003, yeah. And it's frustrating, but it's also at this time it's a little crazy. I'm encouraging athletes who are comfortable to go. I know media will go. I'll be covering it probably from European broadcast portal, and with the help of Stuart Weir, who will be there. But I am missing going to meets, and it's a little frustrating. But that's my issue. But we're going to have the U.S. team should be named shortly, and we're going to have a pretty tremendous team, and we're keeping our fingers crossed. So this is Larry Eder with RunBlogRun. This is Athletics Chat 89. Stay safe in this crazy world. Run, jump, and throw. Hug the people you love. Tell them you love, and just be careful. Thank you to Mike Deering, our production manager, for managing all this craziness. Talk to you soon.